Hello everyone, this is Jotto, and welcome to a Spellweaver video. Yes, I know I've been spamming TGT set reviews, but that's over now. I've actually got, I think, 4 or 5 Spellweaver videos coming up in a row now. This one is going to be about the 6 new heroes, and then I'm going to be doing a bunch of deck techs, update to Wisdom Tempo, and Rage Midrange, some Advanced Never stuff of Cayenne deck, or Keanu as Keanu Reeves, as a lot of people have been calling him, Elric, etc. So I've got tons of videos coming up for Spellweaver, but first things first. The patch was huge. I went over it on stream. It took 2.5 hours with Rajan and Chameleon, so I didn't upload it. But I am going to go over all of the new heroes, since I've played with them a bit more now, so I can give a more complete evaluation. Still not complete, but more complete. Starting with Chameleon, Hand of Justice. Now, Chameleon, Hand of Justice's effect is Tireless March, 3 mana, 3 cooldown, 2 requirement, 1 order, 1 generic. That's the same for all of them, by the way, is 1 of their color and 1 generic. They're all 2 cost in terms of resources, which makes sense because the basic ones are 1 level and the advanced ones are 3. So these are the middle road ones. Ready all allied creatures and heal damage from them. Go to your deploy phase. Now what this allows you to do is attack twice in 1 turn. However, ready does not give them haste or swift. You can't attack them immediately. We discovered that the reason Lamp can do that is because it's an artifact, so it doesn't have summoning sickness. That's basically why. All it does is remove the little exhausted thing on them. Now, this hero was the most overhyped when it came out. I think it's good. I don't think it's overpowerful. I think it's mid-range. Like, not mid-range archetype, but middle of the pack when it comes to heroes. I don't know who I'd have to compare him to from, I guess, pre-patch. Probably Advanced Nefaros, actually. That is the most sort of easily compared power level type thing, where Advanced Nefaros was played but not that much, and it was always situational. Powerful effect, but very situational, and that's kind of the similar place that Chameleon is in right now. I actually don't think this hero power is too devastating. It does fit in soldiers. The problem is sometimes in soldiers it's just unnecessary and overkills. The other problem is it's a finisher in most situations, which means you only activate your hero power once a game. Now, if that finisher is what you need, then it's good. However, soldiers also got the Alexa buff, reducing the token cost from 2 to 1. So, I don't know. I think he needs some testing, but I'm not too impressed with him, but he's definitely okay, and definitely playable. Elric. Now, Elric the Twinblade. Elric Twinblade's ability is 2 mana, 3 cooldown, 2 requirement, Illusion Twin. Summon a Djinn illusion token with attack, HP, and speed equal to the largest attack, HP, and speed among creatures you control. Whenever it's dealt damage, destroy it. Now, this does mean that if you have an Elf Scout and a Jungle Death Trap, you get a 4/4 with 4 speed. It's always a level 2 creature as well, which is relevant because it doesn't die to Harpy. This effect is very, very powerful. Now, I tried this in Wisdom Tempo. It's just not as good as a basic Darius. However, he has sort of spawned a few decks in his own, where he's been part of this sort of nature, wisdom, elf deck, which a lot of people were trying out when Lamp was around, when it was one requirement. But the reason for that is because with all the 3 speed stuff, you just play Death Trap and you get 3 speed 4/4 or 4 speed 4/4 with Elf Scout, and it's a pretty insane ability in that regard. It also works with Ambush Strike and the Elf Land, which buffs, and you can get the buff and then use the token and it keeps the buff, obviously, because it just copies it. And it was very, very powerful there. Now, the other deck that this has been seeing some play in, I hate living on the street sometimes. It's so noisy outside. But anyway, the other deck that's been seeing play is actually when Rajan was testing, which was with Order, and he was running the Angelic Might enchantment for +2/+2 and getting massive tokens. And every 3 turns, and they'd have 3 speeds, so they're really hard to block, or even 4. So, I think it was, no, 3 in that deck, 4 with Elf Scout. But yeah, 3 in that deck, and it was pretty insane, actually. and the largest one I saw was 10-11. Just by continuing, you buff something, make a token of it, buff the token, make another token of the biggest one. 3-turn cooldown is a lot, but the effect is powerful. One of the better heroes that we got from the patch. Cayenne, Edge of the Spear, who has been nicknamed Keanu Reeves, which is hilarious. But anyway, Weapon Mastery, 2 mana, 2 cooldown. Play a creature with 3 cost or less from your hand under Cayenne without paying its cost. At the start of your next turn, put on the field a Might Emblem on it. Now it cannot attack. However, this effect is ridiculous. Basically, it allows you to put library guards under it. Now, you still have to have the level requirements, which means no, you can't put a Phoenix under it on turn 2 with Spark and get a massive Phoenix immediately. It doesn't work that way. You need the requirements. However, you can go for a turn 2 with Spark library guards that comes out as a 3/4. You can also do Bedeviled Fiend, Sun Chaser. Alright, has been seeing a lot of play in Cayenne recently because of it comes out as a 5/5 that can go up to 4 speed, which is almost impossible to deal with, and you can do that on turn 3 with Spark, or with New Horizons you can do it on turn 3 as well. So it has been a very, very powerful archetype. We don't know what deck he fits in the best, but the point is anything that costs 3 mana and also has 2 levels is very, very good with him. Now, most of those are very, very good on their own, things like Elf Commander, but the fact the Might counter is just so big when it comes to creature trading, and especially with Advanced Zash being one of the main powerhouses in the current meta, since he was, like, the Advanced Zash midrange deck didn't get nerfed. In fact, I'm still sitting at rank 1 with it, and it's card for card the same list I was playing before the change. I don't know if it's optimized, but that's just what I've been playing. Kano actually does insanely well against Advanced Zash, and is it's a pretty harsh matchup if you're playing with Sun Chasers and things like that. Very, very powerful hero, probably the best out of the 6 we got. On to arguably the worst out of the 6 we got. Burke, the Uncontainable, double chop, 3 mana, 4 cooldown, okay. Deals 2 damage to each of up to 2 enemy creatures on the front line. They deal damage equal to their attack to Burke. Now, the problem with this is, yes, it has 2 drawbacks, frontline and deals damage back. Now, the idea of this is going up and actually hitting them. The problem is a 4-turn cooldown. Now, the effect itself, deal 2 damage to 2 separate creatures, I would say is a 3 mana, 3 cooldown effect with no drawbacks. Maybe if you just, like, I think I like the idea of the drawbacks because it adds flavor to the card, but I would say if you want to keep the front line and also the damage back, because Rage doesn't have healing, I would actually say probably 3 mana, 2 cooldown, or maybe try him at 3 cooldown, then see him at 2, maybe 4 mana, 2 cooldown to make it less sort of easy to spam. I don't know, but he's definitely very weak right now, and one of the reasons he's very, very weak right now is because of Advanced Zash. Now, his effect is interesting, where he gets to target things down and kill them. The problem is Advanced Zash hits the back line. You have a lot of swift creatures that don't really care about this drawback, like Ramgath, and as a result, Burke is just not very good. Also, the board sweeper is more important since Advanced Neva got buffed and Neva's cool. Basically, the activation cost got reduced, and as a result, there's been quite a few Advanced Neva decks running around recently, and Zash is really good against those, whereas Burke is not. So all of that together means he's not a very good hero right now. In Trials, apparently, he's very good. I haven't played any trial runs since the patch. I've just been playing Constructed since, you know, new stuff. On to Coronis, the Blood Reaper. Soul Raven, 2 mana, 2 cooldown, pay 2 life, summon a Soul Raven onto the field, which is a 0/1 with flying and lifebound, with 2 speed. At end of turn, if the enemy hero was dealt damage this turn, put a Might Emblem on each Soul Raven you control. Now, this is only when you activate it. It's not a continuous effect, it's only when you've activated the ability this turn, which weakens it substantially. This is on the weak side. Now, the only deck that the tokens themselves are pretty inconsequential. You basically need to run Rage to get them to trigger constantly. The only deck I've been able to play Coronis in was Corruption Dominion, and the reason for that was to activate Necromantic Cults. Now, Necromantic Cult is an incredible creature at the moment since the game got slowed down by the increased life, and also by a couple of the decks that punish mid-range being not eliminated but nerfed. And as a result, Necromantic Cult became very strong. The problem with that color combo was that you could never activate your Necro on its own. So now you can use the token, you can sacrifice it, get a necromantic trigger, things like that, and it lets you draw cards on demand every other turn. It's not basic Alexa's ability, it's way weaker. However, when it comes to that color combo, you don't have a source of reusable tokens like that. You need actual cards to do it. So it does give you a bit of utility there. Is it good enough in that deck? Maybe. I haven't found any other deck that's good, and I think it requires a bit of a buff. It's not useless. It's definitely better than Burke. It's not useless, but I think this should probably, the Spellweaver should probably be a 1-1 or something like that, just make it a little bit more impacting. On to the last hero, Enoch. Now, Enoch the Steel Horror has an ability called Blood Feast. 2 mana, 2 cooldown, sacrifice a creature. Creatures you control gain +1 attack until end of turn, and you gain 1 life for each creature you control. Now this is after the sack, which means you gain 1 less than your creatures before it. This sounds really good for zombies, but then you realize you need basic Nefaris for speed and manipulation. So the only deck that I've been able to see this play in is Demons, because you have a lot of 1/1s lying around that you want to be sacking, things like Infernal Vulture if you're not activating them, or the what's it called? The one mana demon that costs 0 Demon Portal. Let me check. Nightbringer, that's it. So if you sack either of those, it's probably a net gain in terms of actual damage. The life gain hasn't been as relevant, but it's still okay. But that's a very, very niche role for him. I think he's the second weakest. Maybe. I think he's actually on par with Coronis. But we'll see. I haven't tested Enoch as much. I know he's okay in Demons, it's just not very impressive. It's a very win more type ability is the problem. It's a bit like Chameleon's, but it's less swingy. So it's, yeah, less utility, less swingy. So I haven't been too impressed with Enoch. I think he's on the weak side a little bit. Maybe his effect should have, I don't know, 1 mana, or I honestly don't know, but he's a bit weak. Okay, so if I had to go over them in terms of ranking with power level, I'd put probably Burke at the bottom, then Enoch, Coronis, then Chameleon, Elric, and Cayenne. I think that's how I'd rate them from weakest to strongest. About 2 of them are good, the rest of them are a bit shaky. Chameleon will see some play somewhere, and Coronis and Enoch can see some play in very specific decks. But anyway, thank you all for watching. If you like the content, please subscribe. If you have any feedback or want to ask me any questions to do with the new patch, put it in the comment section below. The next couple of videos I'll be making will be Spellweaver deck techs for constructed decks after the patch, so stay tuned for those. But as now, so Jotto.